I've been doing oil painting probably since I went to graduate school, which was about a long time ago, 1994, I think. Yeah, the school I went to was School of Visual Arts in New York, and there wasn't much painting going on at the time. Everybody was kind of doing a lot of installations and everything, and it was a little bit frustrating because I really didn't. I mean, I like to draw, and one day a friend of mine came in and he had a little oil painting under his arm, and I was like, "Where did you get that? Did you do that? Did you paint that?" And he said, because we were graduate students, we are allowed to audit undergraduate classes. So I went to where the undergraduate kids were and started doing figurative classical painting from life, and it was fabulous. The teacher we had was a guy called John Foote. He was the kind of typical classic art teacher. You know, he was kind of a little bit English, had big gray hair. He looked a bit like Samuel Beckett, and he introduced us to his favorites, which were primarily guys like, well, I guess all the great masters in terms of figurative painting, like Rembrandt and Velázquez and Sargent. I remember he really liked Sargent. He was always pushing Sargent, Ingres, and yeah, mostly those guys. Yeah. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was a very important place. I guess that's pretty much where most of my schooling happened. You know, as art school kind of failed, the Met didn't fail. So it was an amazing museum, very eclectic collection. But it was great for me to be able to go to these places and get really close to the paintings. Like, I mean, there's a classic, amazing Velázquez painting there. I forget the actual title, but you could get really close up to it, and I don't know, you can just see and understand the techniques by actually observing. So, which is hard because it's not really taught anymore. So you have to kind of teach yourself. I mean, my teacher could only teach so much, but there's an element of knowledge, I think, that's been lost over the years and over the lack of persistence in doing it, that you just have to figure out yourself, you know. So the Met was good for that. Rubens, Van Dyck, Titian, everybody, you know, it's fantastic. The Met's the best. Yeah. Well, the Louvre's also very good.
Yeah.
The thing is, once you get hooked on painting classically, it's the kind of thing is it's an art form that can be looked at and observed as good or bad. You know, whereas in the art school, it's like anything, you could just do anything, you know. The kids were bringing in Vaseline-covered light bulbs and talking about it for 45 minutes. So it's like, as a student, you're lost, you know, with that. So when you finally get involved with something that's tangibly perceived as good or bad, you know, you have your limits of your highest levels, you know, Rembrandt, Van Dyck. You have your painting. You can see perfectly where you have to go. So that you're really, you know, hooked, you know. But what happened is I realized I'll never be able to go that high. So I started kind of thinking, okay, do I have to go that high? Do I have to reach the excellence of Velázquez? Can I? Should I spend the rest of my life trying to become that? And then I started noticing other painters like Bonnard and Vuillard and all the German expressionists like Kokoschka and Schiele. And I started seeing that there's other aspects of making a painting that's important, color, composition, you know, things like that. So I don't know, I learned how to paint. Now I think it's time to make a painting. So those guys kind of taught me that, I don't know, there's just other things to making a painting. What makes a good painting? Well, I think most important is probably the three things I would say: composition, color, harmonious color scheme, and I don't know, a bit of integrity to the subject. You know, composition is very, very important, and there's a lot of different fundamental aspects of composition that I've been studying. And a lot of Japanese paintings were incredible with the dynamic symmetry and balance. And the Renaissance, of course, all the different golden section. And there's a lot of tricks, you know, and kind of playing around with making a dynamic composition, you know, with repetition of forms. Cézanne was a genius at composition. And color is really also incredibly important. I mean, you can pull the eye around. I think the idea of a good painting is to keep the artist's eye moving around the painting in a kind of, I don't know, in a kind of certain way that there's little tricks, you know, you can do. I don't know, I think painting painting is kind of for the eye. You know, it's a visual thing. You know, as music is to the ear, painting I think is to the eye. It has to please certain fundamental aspects of the visual senses. You know, I don't know. When you were 10 years old and you showed any sign of any artistic ability, you would be put into the kind of ateliers, and you know, I mean, and you would just study. You would work in these. They were like factories, you know, like you know, they would just be churning out frescoes and murals, and they had, you know, tons of apprentices basically. So that would be your school, you know. You would just work there. Who was it that? What is it? Sargent was the apprentice. No, not a sergeant. To Carlos Duran. I don't remember who it was, but basically you had to basically do one head a day. That was your job. I think it was Da Vinci with Verrocchio, maybe. I can't remember. Yeah. So you were put in school very young. Yeah. And they all knew each other. I have a friend who works at the Louvre in conservation, and she allowed me to go observe some drawings they have a special library where you can go. I was very honored. And I was looking really closely at a Titian drawing of a scene of sheep with a shepherd, and it was done in pen and ink, brown pen and ink, and really up close I could tell and I could see where Van Gogh was definitely influenced and inspired by this type of drawing, you know, and also Millet. I mean, they all observed each other. I mean, there's classic examples of, you know, Manet's painting of Olympia was taken directly from a Titian painting. You know, everybody inspires everybody else, you know. So take little snippets of everyone. You know, you can't help but be influenced and inspired. Don't copy, but you know. Although Picasso said, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." Steal. Yeah. So. Who was the last good painter?
Yeah, for you.
I think the last good painter, probably Van Gogh, Vincent van Gogh, because what Van Gogh did was Van Gogh was able to create a modern look to his work without compromising any of the integrity to the subject. He had a commitment to his subject, like an old master. His sense of vision, the way he observed things, you know, was traditional, but he just, I guess, brought a different approach to the way he actually painted it. So I'd say he was probably modern and also good. But there are other great painters. Lucian Freud is a fantastic painter, an incredible observer of life, and has fantastic facility. Brushstrokes are incredible. There's another guy in Spain called Antonio Lopez Garcia, who's very good. He's alive, painting in Madrid. I think he's with the Marlborough Gallery. Jenny Saville, also a very good painter. A little bit too photographic, but good. Yeah. That's all. No other good ones. No.
Another and last question.
Yeah.
For you directly, what direction is your work talking?
What direction?
Yeah.
What direction is
Sorry
it
for my
going?
accent.
No, it's very French. It's very nice.
Very French, I know.
The direction, I guess the plastic ones are the latest.
Yeah.
And what they've done for me is they've helped me kind of simplify my subject matter. I was always searching how to be modern. How do I be modern, you know, while painting traditionally? Do I use modern subject matters? Do I, you know, paint people in hoods? What do I do? And I tried that, and I, you know, would arrange different groups of figures. But I don't know, it just wasn't natural. So by finding and exploring with this plastic, it's helped me, because it's been able to use a very traditional subject matter, which I love, which is based on Hellenistic sculpture, which is simply the figure and drapery, which I love. That's all I love. So I can do that now and not have to worry about being modern. So I think the plastic and the technique is interesting, and it's fun. You know, it's strange. Yeah, it's loose, and I pour inks on, and all kinds of things happen, and it's a little bit chaotic, but it's kind of intriguing, and it's a kind of technique that I could explore for years, you know, trying to kind of master it. So, yeah, I'd say probably I'll go that direction. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's all our questions. Thank you very much. Okay.